Over half of your staff was fired by that DOGE decision, but you didn't stand up to that DOGE decision, did you? You came into office unprepared and didn't know the importance of OCR, did you?
Oh, no, I know the importance of OCR.
Okay, then why did it take you 10 months? Madam Secretary, if you knew the importance, why did it take you 10 months to figure out and say, hey, I need these people back? In the first Trump administration, 1,200 cases were resolved. And in your first year, only 112. That's a lot of kids out there unprotected by the Secretary of Education. As a matter of fact, it cost taxpayers $38 million to pay for these OCR employees that you put on administrative leave for 10 months, or you failed to say, bring them back.
Representative Mark Takano didn't just show up to argue, he brought the definitive receipts to a high-stakes political showdown. We are looking at a staggering $38 million paper trail of squandered public funds that Education Secretary Linda McMahon was completely blind to. This goes far beyond standard partisan bickering. This is the real-time autopsy of a cabinet secretary who allowed her own agency to be crippled, only to realize her catastrophic error 10 months too late. When Takano presented the physical budget reports to demolish her justifications, McMahon's sole counter-strategy was throwing out phantom numbers to muddy the waters. But Takano was armed with indisputable facts, from an abysmal 1% case resolution rate to the reality that the president was quietly gutting the Civil Rights Agency's funding. Make sure you watch until the end, because the exact moment McMahon is trapped and entirely incapable of answering a basic yes or no inquiry is a masterclass in holding evasive government officials accountable. Hit that subscribe button, because when the Department of Education burns through tens of millions of dollars while abandoning student rights, you deserve to see the undeniable proof. A masterful interrogation always starts with a carefully laid snare. Takano doesn't lead with his heaviest financial punches. Instead, he rewinds to McMahon's Senate testimony from just a week earlier. He executes the golden rule of cross-examination: never ask a question if we don't already possess the answer, and relentlessly use the target's own words as a weapon.
You told Senator Chris Murphy that you were hiring more staff at the Office of Civil Rights. Is that correct?
Yes.
And when Senator Murphy asked you about the firing of half of OCR staff last March, you said that, you might have not have done that in hindsight.
I'm sorry, what?
You might not have done that in hindsight. The firings, that is.
Yes, when we came on board, and those RIF notices, were going out. That was it.
They were going out pursuant not by your order, but by DOGE?
They had started that process before I came on.
Observe McMahon's attempt to dodge accountability. She relies on the phrase, "we're going out," framing the mass layoffs as if they were a spontaneous weather event rather than a deliberate executive action. However, Takano instantly shatters that defense mechanism.
And you didn't really, at that moment, oppose at what they were doing. You didn't say, stop it, because I know that OCR is important.
OCR is important, and now we.
Yeah, but you didn't know that at that moment. They were firing half the staff that you needed our OCR, and it took you 10 months to figure out that that was a mistake.
Here lands the first devastating strike. Mark Takano exposes a harsh reality regarding the administration's power dynamics. The Secretary of Education lacks authority over her own department. The call to terminate half the workforce of the Student Rights Agency OCR was orchestrated by DOGE, and McMahon, the supposed leader, stood idly by. It required nearly a full year, 10 grueling months, for her to comprehend that her department was entirely paralyzed.
Madam Secretary, you gave me a little smile. I think that little smile indicated you thought it was a mistake. Madam Secretary, your department resolved only 112 of the nearly 12,000 pending civil rights complaints in 2025. 112, I'm talking about resolution agreements, not dismissals of cases. Those you could say those are resolutions, but we're talking about resolution agreements that were reached. Only 112 out of the 12,000 pending civil rights complaints. That's 1%, the lowest level of case resolutions in a decade. In 2017, under the first Trump administration, there were 1,299 resolution agreements. And so I think you realize after 10 months that the labor-intensive nature of getting to what I'm talking about, the legally binding contracts, which is what a resolution a resolution agreement is between OCR and the schools that are involved in discrimination cases that guarantees relief. You arrive at a contract. That's labor intensive. Over half of your staff was fired by that DOGE decision, but you didn't stand up to that DOGE decision, did you? You came into office unprepared and didn't know the importance of OCR, did you?
Oh, no, I know the importance of OCR.
Okay, then why did it take you 10 months? Madam Secretary, if you knew the importance, why did it take you 10 months to figure out and say, hey, I need these people back? In the first Trump administration, 1,200 cases were resolved. And in your first year, only 112. That's a lot of kids out there unprotected by the Secretary of Education. As a matter of fact, it cost taxpayers $38 million to pay for these OCR employees that you put on administrative leave for 10 months, or you failed to say, bring them back. You didn't rescind this decision until 10 months later.
In the corridors of government, placing employees on administrative leave during a botched mass firing essentially means workers are banned from doing their jobs, yet the state is legally obligated to continue paying them due to union agreements or legal red tape. Takano zeroes in on her most glaring weakness. Politicians frequently justify job cuts as a way to save taxpayer money. Takano flips that exact rationale against her. McMahon's indecisiveness, hesitation, and sheer ineptitude didn't conserve a single penny. Instead, it torched $38 million in public funds to pay a workforce to sit idle at home for 10 months. $38 million drained due to executive incompetence. There isn't a false smile in the world that can hide that metric. Having established the catastrophic financial waste, Takano pivots to the human toll. What happens to the victims of discrimination and the students left behind? This is where he drops the most crushing evidence of the entire exchange.
Madam Secretary, your department resolved only 112 of the nearly 12,000 pending civil rights complaints in 2025. 112, I'm talking about resolution agreements, not dismissals of cases. Those you could say those are resolutions, but we're talking about resolution agreements that were reached. Only 112 out of the 12,000 pending civil rights complaints. That's 1%, the lowest level of case resolutions in a decade. In 2017, under the first Trump administration, there were 1,299 resolution agreements.
Let's break down exactly why Takano hammers hard on the term resolution agreements. In the OCR pipeline, when a student experiences sexual harassment, racial bias, or disability discrimination, a complaint is filed. If the OCR barely reviews it and tosses it in the trash, that counts as a dismissal. However, if the agency does its job, investigates thoroughly, forces the institution to negotiate, alters policies, and secures restitution, that results in a resolution agreement, a strict, legally binding contract. Takano clarifies a vital point. This actual justice is labor-intensive. It demands dedicated attorneys and hard work. But because McMahon allowed DOGE to gut half her staff and send them home for 10 months, the apparatus failed entirely. A backlog of nearly 12,000 files accumulated, while only 112 victims saw genuine justice, a horrific 1% success metric. Takano brilliantly utilizes sarcasm, comparing her output to the 2017 Trump administration, sending a clear message. This isn't a failure of partisan ideology. It is a failure of profound personal incompetence.
Yes, we are rehiring attorneys, and we have already addressed now 4,000 of cases at OCR because during the Trump
Madam Secretary, those resolved 4,000 cases are not resolution agreements, are they?
Part of them are.
Only 112 this past year.
Well, in the last...
It's a lot different than 4,000. You're trying to confuse the matter. 4,000, you're talking maybe dismissals, case dismissals.
Well, in total, we have addressed 4,000
Okay, let's get back to it's 112.
Well,
Trapped in a corner, Linda McMahon deploys the ultimate defense mechanism of a losing politician, semantic games. She defensively tosses out a figure, claiming 4,000 cases have been addressed. Initially, it sounds like a robust defense, giving the illusion of a highly functional department, but Mark Takano immediately sniffs out the bait and switch. Simply stamping "dismissed" on a piece of paper technically counts as addressed. By forcing the secretary to distinguish between casually tossing out complaints and actually fighting for victims' resolution agreements, Takano shatters her remaining defenses. With one lethal observation, "You're trying to confuse the matter," he completely obliterates the credibility of her answers. Now for the ultimate conclusion. The hearing's climax lays bare the dark reality of institutional bureaucracy. Blind allegiance to the top brass supersedes truthfulness to the American people. Takano highlights a devastating contradiction. McMahon repeatedly claims she is rehiring, yet the actual budget proposal proves the exact inverse.
Are you disagreeing with the president's budget, which cuts OCR even more?
The budget that we submitted is a floor.
It cuts OCR even more, doesn't it?
It is a floor for hiring. We want to increase those numbers, but we
The
submitted
president's budget cuts OCR even more, doesn't
It
it?
is a reduced amount for it because it is a floor of hiring.
Madam
not
Secretary,
where we
I'll
want
ask you
to
the
be.
question again. Does the president's budget raise the budget for OCR, keep it even, or does it lower the budget for OCR staff?
I'll repeat what I said. It
Madam
is a
Secretary, you had a
floor of
week since
hiring.
the Senate Help Committee hearing to figure this out from when your question with Senator Murphy. You couldn't answer his question. I'm asking you a similar question. Is the president's budget you're submitting, have they lowered the FTEs for OCR staff?
I've just answered that, but you must.
No,
have
you
been
did
listening.
not. You're not
You
answering the
won't
question.
well,
Is it lowered? Look, I have the budget right here. The budget says they're cutting the FTEs.
She's terrified to give a straight answer. Admitting to an increase is impossible because the physical budget document clearly displays a reduction. But she refuses to acknowledge the decrease, because doing so would instantly dismantle the trying to hire more people fairy tale she just presented. In the end, Linda McMahon opts to stonewall, recycling meaningless corporate jargon, floor of hiring, until the clock runs out, saving her from the relentless questioning. Secretary McMahon's calculated evasion is much more than an uncomfortable viral clip. It highlights a deeply concerning reality about the administration's transparency with the public. Whenever government leaders treat constitutional oversight like a minor annoyance to be sidestepped, it is the citizens who foot the bill. That bill is exactly $38 million in wasted taxpayer funds. It is nearly 12,000 neglected civil rights cases. It is the functional collapse of an agency built to defend the most marginalized among us. Mark Takano demonstrated the sheer force of hard data. 12,000, 38 million, and one basic multiple-choice question was all it took to dismantle the defense of a top cabinet official. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about politicians hiding behind phrases like administrative leave or floor of hiring to avoid real numbers? Does this hearing inspire any faith in the competence of our federal agencies? Thank you for watching this breakdown. Be sure to like and subscribe to back the channel. Catch you in the next video.